There are a number of leads to choose from when crafting a story. Your basic news lead is your basic summary lead that combines the 5 W's into 1 or 2 sentences. Then you have the anecdotal or narrative lead. These are mini stories that have a beginning, middle, and end. This is the version of the parking meter story that starts with Dandelion and how he can't afford to pay for metered parking and will need to start taking the bus to work. Next is your scene setter. This is a version of the "it was a dark and stormy night" device, borrowed from fiction writing. These typically work best for long feature stories, where the descriptions can transport you to another place. Next is the blind lead. This is an extreme version of the delayed identification lead. It teases readers by withholding a key piece of information and then springs it on them in a subsequent paragraph. An example of this from the text is the story of how Juliet goes everywhere with her Romeo, who turns out to be her golden retriever. Next is a roundup lead. This is a beginning that presents a list of things or events that happened. The direct address uses the second-person voice to speak directly to the reader in feature stories. Then you have the startling statement. This is a sentence that grabs the reader's attention with an astonishing fact or piece of information, daring them to continue reading. They're sometimes called zingers, or a "Hey, Martha," as in, "Hey, Martha, you're not going to believe this." And then you have the wordplay lead. This is the use of puns, sound effects, typography, or witticisms to begin a story. Regardless of how you choose to start your story, there are a few things to keep in mind. You want to be concise. Get to the point, without being too vague or wordy. Most leads use fewer than 30 words, so make them count. You want to be accurate. Journalists do sometimes make mistakes. If a reader catches a mistake in the lead, your credibility is lost, and the reader won't continue with the story. You also want to use strong verbs rather than soft and mushy verbs like plan, try, and met. Ask, why should I care? What is the story about that makes it worth telling? Start there. Sell the story. What makes this story different than any other story? But don't get too hung up on the perfect lead. Again, start with something, anything, and come back to rework it later. There are a few lazy leads that won't help the paperboy there sell the newspaper. First, you have the topic lead. The Durham City Council met today. Yeah? So what? Topic leads typically convey no actual news. It doesn't matter that the City Council met, only what they did or decided on. My least favorite lead is the question lead. Did you know? Either you did or you didn't, but it doesn't matter anyhow, because you're going to know in a minute. Question leads are just weak, irritating stalls when you can't think of anything better. And finally, the quote lead. These are the third on the chopping block list. They often don't fairly summarize the story and can be opinions rather than facts.